Hey, what's up, guys? So this one, I just wanted to cover the biliary tree real quick because we've had a few questions come up, and honestly, the questions are pretty straightforward, but then they hit you with all the Coley answers, and honestly, it's like, well, which Coley do I pick? Which is the right one? How am I supposed to memorize all these crazy $20 names, right? So let's look at this, right? You have a 32-year-old man that has just finished dinner, and now he has 20 minutes later has right upper quadrant pain. It's pretty classic, right? And it's like, okay, um, the timeline in this is important, by the way, and it's one thing that I do want to point out is that sometimes you'll get a question where they start out with pain, um, and then they eat and the pain goes away, and then the pain comes back worse. That is going to be GERD, okay? Because you think about it, they have an acidic environment. They put food in there. The food neutralizes it. They feel better, and then their body over acclimates, adds more acidity to the mix, and that's your gastric esophageal reflux disease. Okay. Um, so with this question though, they eat and then 20 minutes later they have pain, and more specifically they end up with right upper quadrant pain. So why is that? Well, the main reason there is because they have an issue with the gallbladder. And if you think about what the gallbladder does, the gallbladder stores that bile, right? The liver takes the bilirubin or broken down red blood cells, creates bile, stores the bile in the gallbladder. And when you eat specifically fatty meals or high cholesterol meals, the gallbladder constricts and it sends the bile down through that common bile duct into the small intestines. So if you think about it, this dude ate, 20 minutes later had pain. That's because his digestive system is now turning on. That's classic. Ready? We'll hit the button. Cholecystitis, right? But here's where students really get messed up is they look at this and they go cholelithiasis, cholecystitis, choleangitis, choledocholithiasis. It's like, are you kidding me? And I know for a fact that some of my students have gotten a question exactly like this with all the Coley answers. And you're like, well, I don't know all these Coleys, man. How am I supposed to remember which one is which? Like, don't they all have right upper quadrant pain? And the answer is yeah, yeah, they do. You're absolutely right. So I will give you some piece to this. And if you get a question and it asks you about the gallbladder, if he says your patient ate some food and now all of a sudden has right upper quadrant pain, which of these $20 names do you get to pick from? And I will tell you the answer is going to be cholecystitis. And you're like, wow, that's amazing. How'd you know that? Well, the truth is there's a sign. One of the signs that you guys are going to need to know is the Murphy sign. And if you're unfamiliar, the Murphy sign is associated with the gallbladder and right upper quadrant pain. So to get a positive Murphy sign, essentially think about where the liver is and where the gallbladder is. It's in the upper right quadrant. It is literally attached to the diaphragm. So if you press into the upper right quadrant and have them take a deep breath, that diaphragm goes down and puts pressure onto that biliary tree, causing pain. Okay? So um, that's the Murphy sign is only associated with cholecystitis. Okay? So it's a freebie. If you get all the Coley names and you're like, I don't know which one to pick, cholecystitis is your guy. Okay? Just real quick, I'll run through these names real quick just to at least give you a brush up on what they are. Um, but um, but at least you got your answer. Okay? Um, so you'll see right up top is cholelithiasis. If you don't know, lithiasis is a fancy name for stones. Okay, cholelithiasis simply means that chole means technically means biliary tree, but Coli, we usually just refer that to as the gallbladder. So cholelithiasis simply means there's stones in the gallbladder. That's it. The next guy up is cholecystitis. So if you look on the little picture here, you see where the gallbladder kind of empties out into that first little tube there. That is the cystic duct, hence the cholecystitis. And that's really what it means. Cholecystitis is inflammation in the bile duct, but that doesn't mean it's without stones. It could be stones in the bile duct, or I'm sorry, in the cystic duct causing inflammation. That's your cholecystitis, and that's the guy that's associated with your Murphy sign. Okay. Now you branch off into the other two. Well, the other one is acalculous cholecystitis, which simply means no stones. So you have inflammation without stones, whatever. The other guys are choledocholithiasis. Now, if you look, your cystic duct empties into a common duct. This is also shared with the pancreas. And just so you know, the number 2 cause for pancreatitis is, believe it or not, gallstones, okay? Because it not only backs up bile, but it backs up the pancreatic enzymes back into the pancreas, okay? But choledocholithiasis simply means that a stone has gone all the way down into the common bile duct and blocked it, okay? And then the next guy and the worst guy is cholangitis. Okay, and that simply means that there's a blockage in the bile duct that is now inflamed and infected. In fact, there's another sign that you probably won't need to know, and I'd be amazed if your paramedic book or class brings it up, is what you call the Charcot's triad. And essentially that means that they have a fever, they have jaundice, which means that the bile duct is so backed up that it's actually leaking out or backing up into the liver, essentially causing jaundice from it. So right upper quadrant pain, fever, and jaundice goes with that guy. But I think that's probably too far. I don't think you guys are going to need to know that. But long story short, out of all this that you need to know, if you get a biliary tree question and you get a bunch of these chole answers and you don't know which one to pick, your guy is cholecystitis. Okay? Hope that helps, guys. Have a good day.